Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So, Premium and Pro members, you've obviously read all of this yesterday. I'm just going to go over it again in in video format. There are actually a couple of others that I'm going to talk about, just so I can explain it a little bit better. Free members, you'll be seeing this on Saturday, Saturday morning. Premium and Pro members received the written version of this on Thursday, and they were able to view this video on Friday. So there might be things that have changed since then, including the odds. Potentially some of these meetings might have been cancelled. As you know, we recorded a video last week which included a couple of races that were then abandoned, or cancelled, or postponed, or whatever word we're using. So let's get into it. Starting off looking at the 12:40 at Warwick. I don't think this horse is going to be a bet, but I do think this horse will win the race. That is Just Golden. Just Golden chased home our selection last time, Step Ahead. Really well supported that day, Just Golden. I was a little bit worried because I thought Step Ahead was exactly that. I thought he was a step ahead of the rivals that day. He did manage to hang on and fought bravely to the line to win by a neck, but I thought that was above average form, and this doesn't look the greatest of races. This really should be for Just Golden to win. Dan Skelton, his stable is based relatively close to Warwick, and although Harry's going to Newbury to ride a couple there, Tristan and I think Harry Atkins later have got some really big rides at Warwick, and should take all of the beating, and this being one of those, I really think that Just Golden will take all of the beating here. Probably not going to be a bet though, because I imagine this is going to be odds on. I can't imagine this being odds against. If we can get evens, then I'll be taking Just Golden, but anything smaller than that, I'll probably leave it alone. It's just not really my cup of tea. Moving on to the 1 o'clock at Newbury. So we're going to chip and change between the courses. We're going to go in time order today instead of racecourse order. Moving on to the 1 o'clock at Newbury, and this is just a race I want to watch for a couple of reasons. There's a few horses that are very, very interesting in this race. Sober Glory has some quality form. He really does. Absolutely quality form. But he's running in a standard novice hurdle. A little bit surprising. Fantasy World for Nicky Henderson, the 4-year-old, is getting a huge amount of weight from those two rivals. What's that? I think it's 18 and 22 pound. Just trying to do the math. Yeah, 22 and 18 pounds. So 18 pounds from Cadastral and 22 from Sober Glory. That is a huge amount of weight, particularly as we've got to remember that last time we saw Fantasy World, he was winning a listed race on the flat over 1.6 miles, and was then officially rated 103. Well, there's a general consensus that you add kind of about 30 onto that mark, and that would take him to 133, which isn't that far off Sober Glory. And then you have to account for the weight that he's getting. That could be massive in this race. I do want to watch this race though, because I just feel that there's 3 here that are above average. The third one being Cadastral. Cadastral is a horse I really like. I think he's going to be very interesting going forward. I think they're going to find a nice race for him. If you go back to his Newbury bumper form, that was pretty good, wasn't it? He beat Talk the Talk. Yes, Talk the Talk, who's now second favourite, for the Supreme Novice, should be 4 from 4 since over hurdles. It was only that he came down at Leopardstown in a Grade 1 on the day after Boxing Day. Is it called St Stephen's Day, I think? Just come to the top of my head. Yeah, that horse was beaten by Cadastral at Newbury. I mean, that's just really strong form. But Sober Glory also beat Cadastral at Chepstow and was a very comfortable winner that day. Yes, he's £4 better off Cadastral, but is that going to be enough to reverse the form with Sober Glory? Not sure. I do also think Dan Skelton knows what he's got here. If this horse is a massive drifter and then finishes a staying on 3rd or 4th, Dan Skelton knew what he was doing with this horse, getting in more experience and probably potentially getting beat. The reason I say that is Sober Glory has beaten Great Fleet in a 3-mile point-to-point, now trained by Dan Skelton. Beat a Pied Nom in a bumper at Chepstow. A Pied Nom is trained by Dan Skelton. Beat Rialco at Newbury. Rialco is trained by Dan Skelton. Beat Cadastral at Chepstow. Cadastral is trained by Dan Skelton. And last time out, when winning at Newbury, back in third that day was Dutch Corner for Dan Skelton. Dan Skelton knows exactly what he's got in terms of rivals against Sober Glory. And he might look at this and go, well, Sober Glory is definitely better than us, because we're about that level. Or you know, it's very easy to get Cadastral beat here, potentially get him qualified for something else. I know he's got a handicap mark. Got a handicap mark of 126. He might just be looking at getting a bit more experience into the horse. This will be his third run over hurdles. That could be enough for Dan to look at something down the line, potentially at the Aintree Festival. So it's a race that I really want to watch, with all three of them being very interesting going forward. But who's going to win on the day? I'm not totally sure. So I'm leaving it alone from a betting perspective, but I will definitely be watching it. The next race I want to talk about is actually at Naas, the 105. Again, not a betting race, but it's a race to watch with the Fred Winter in mind. It generally works out pretty well for that, doesn't it? With that in mind, we've also got to look at the Charles Burns horse. You know, easy to get that horse beat and then drop him into a Fred Winter. Similarly, the JP McManus horse. You know, if it was a Charles Burns trained horse and a JP owned horse, we'd then be looking at that and going, well, that's the one to take out the race, isn't it? They're definitely going to get that beat. Yeah, it's a race worth watching with that Fred Winter in mind. Who's going to get qualified for that? It's just a race to watch. It generally works out pretty well. It doesn't have to be the winner. It can also be horses that have been beaten. Look out for the eye catcher in the race in the 105 at Naas, which for some reason I haven't loaded up here. Yes, I have. 105 at Naas, sorry. We move on. Now we do have a bet. The 115 at Warwick. Can't get away from Jubilee Alpha here. Yes, the horse is a short price. Let's have a look what it is. The 115. Currently available at even money still. Yes, still available at even money. I think she's performed really well this season. She should have won at Wincanton when she made a complete mess of the second last. She got beat by the very well handicapped Nurse Susan, and what I mean by that is, although it wasn't a handicap, Nurse Susan was actually getting £2 from Jubilee Alpha, and yet I think Nurse Susan is the better horse in general. She stayed on really strongly that day, Nurse Susan, to just run down Jubilee Alpha, who still went off favourite, did everything right, just ended up being a bit of a sitting duck. But I thought Jubilee Alpha was winning that day all the way up until the run-in when Nurse Susan just outstayed her. Do I think there's a Nurse Susan in this race against her? No. I really don't. And she's actually, you know, nicely weighted compared to her rivals. Hollygrove Cha-Cha is £10 lower rated, and yet gives Jubilee Alpha £1. And La Pinsonniere gets £2, but has already been beaten by Jubilee Alpha, getting £5. So why can she reverse that form? I don't think she can. Yeah, this looks like a perfect bit of placement from Paul Nicholls here. She can win this, and I don't even think her handicap mark will change. So it's probably a clever bit of placement in that you can pick up 17 grand and still be rated 139 if they do want to look for a handicap with her. We then go off to Newbury for the 135, and it's actually a horse that we like here that we've mentioned already today, because Apaidanon was beaten by Sober Glory in a bumper at, what did I say it was, Chepstow? In a bumper at Chepstow. Well, Sober Glory is rated 139 now. Apaidanon is still rated 124. And to be fair to Apaidanon, he's done nothing wrong this season. Won a couple of races, including over 2 mile 5 at Cheltenham, so the trip of 3 mile here I don't think will be an issue. And last time out ran a really good race in the Lanzarote Hurdle when being beaten by the very well handicapped Iberica Lord. We was just unsure about the trip that day. Got a clear run, comfortably won it. And Double Powerful, who just needed to get round. As soon as that horse got round, he was going to be running a big race. Apaidenom travelled really sweetly that day. Just got beat by better horses. Are there better horses in this race? In my opinion, no. I really don't think there are. On official ratings, there's a couple. Kintara is the highest rated horse in the race. No, Mai Tai is the highest rated horse at 132. He's a 10-year-old though, and he's completely out of form. We then look at the next one. It is Kintara, a 10-year-old, rated 129. Well, those two horses at Kempton were both rated 136. They were 7 and 8-year-olds. They were looking like they were well handicapped. They looked like they were very progressive, just couldn't get round, kept falling and unseating. There's nothing in this race that really jumps out like that to me. I just feel this is a significantly weaker race, and I feel like Harry's coming here to let's just win this race and we'll go on to better things, probably trying to get him in a better race later on in the season. 124 might find that they don't get in something down the line, so that I think they're trying to win this race en route to something else. And to be honest, I'd be very disappointed if they don't win this. He is 6-4. I think that's a fair price, to be honest. You ignore that 15-8. It's an outlier, isn't it? We never take those prices seriously. That's probably been put up at 15-8 for a tipster that's sponsored by the bookmaker, so you can put it up at 15-8, and then that suddenly disappears. So their P&L is inflated. If they do get the win, they get 15-8 out of it, whereas nobody else was able to back it at 15-8. In fact, the tipster probably wasn't even able to back it at 15-8. It was just put there so that he can use that for his figures. Just going back to our selection, I don't see any reason why Apaidenom's going to get beat here, to be honest. Probably will be one of my 3 in the NAP competition. We then go to Warwick for the 150. Just a 3-runner affair. Really disappointing. I feel like Mamba number 5 is the one to beat here, in my opinion. And I feel like Mirabad is the one to watch. So, Mamba number 5 is the one to beat because I think he's got some really good form. He's only a 5-year-old as well. I still think there's more to come. Those 2 handicap wins at Aintree and Newbury have both worked out very well. And his win at Kempton was a good performance. Comfortable winner. He was only a 4-year-old. He's still progressing. He's now a 5-year-old. He's still getting better. I think he's smart. Last season, he ran some really nice races. Ended up finishing 7th in a Grade 1, having won a Grade 2 at Kempton. I kind of feel that's his level. I mean, he started out, life for Ben Pauling, they threw him straight into a Triumph Hurdle trial. They thought he was that good. And I still think he is that good. I think he's a graded horse, and I think he'll end up in the Grade 1s. As I said, he's done absolutely nothing wrong, and I think he's beaten the right horses, where I'm not so sure the same can be said for Still Ali, or Still Ally. It's Ali, isn't it? Still Ali. I don't feel that form is as strong. I feel like when he got beat by Nemean Lion, for example, in a National Spirit Hurdle, that's not as strong as what Mambo number 5 was running on. Pulled up in a handicap at Aintree. Yes, he's 2 from 2 over fences, but he beat Unexpected Party, who's now been sent hunter chasing. And he beat Push the Button at Ascot in a race that I just don't feel is quite good enough form. He then went to Cheltenham, for example, for a handicap and got comfortably beaten. Okay, the 2 behind, Jax Jr. and No Questions Asked came out and won. No Questions Asked, the race fell into his lap after it all went wrong for Be Aware, and Jax Jr. was winning a handicap, not a graded race. I don't feel that's as good and that's as strong form for me as Mamba number 5. So that's why I'm happy with Mamba number 5 in that race. And if we just look at the odds, 150, we're actually now getting 5-4 about him, which I'm quite happy with. Mirabad is the horse I'm watching as well. And the reason for that is they're going handicapping with this horse, aren't they? They're going to end up in a handicap somewhere with a big race in mind. They tried to do it at Windsor in a good handicap that was worth 26 grand. He was going to win, in my opinion. I thought he'd skipped clear and he was going to win it quite comfortably in a good handicap. I think it's clever that they're now getting him another run here over fences. They'll get him qualified for the Grand Annual off the back of this, which is very interesting. Got to remember, this horse went off 7-2, second favourite for the Greatwood Hurdle on his first run for Dan Skelton. Dan Skelton thought he'd inherited a horse that was good enough to run in a Greatwood Hurdle and was going to go there with a big chance. And it just didn't quite pan out. But maybe he's a better chaser. I think he is a better chaser. He's been to Cheltenham before. He won a handicap beating Reckless Eric and Beau Zenith. I've got a feeling that they're looking at the Grand Annual with Mirabad, and they've already got a big chance with Be Aware, have the Skeltons, but this wouldn't surprise me if Mirabad also turned up in the Grand Annual. No harm in having two shots at a feature race at the Cheltenham Festival, and yeah, I think Mirabad's being handicapped for that race. I think they're getting him qualified by running here. So hopefully Mirabad can win the race, and hopefully Mambo number 5 can win the race. Mirabad can finish third without getting too close, but has got that more chase experience and qualifies for the Grand Annual. 2:10 at Newbury, leaving it alone. It's the Denman Chase. I do think the winner will be Haiti Couleur. Very unoriginal. He's odds on, isn't he? In terms of behind, again we're looking at another Dan Skelton horse. That is Risk in the Ground. Arguably got no chance in this race. Just 2 weeks after running at... Where did he run 2 weeks ago? Cheltenham. Got comfortably beat that day. Comes here. Steps up slightly in trip. But in a much harder race just 2 weeks later. What are they doing? They're trying to get his handicap mark down. Currently rated 140. If he goes here and gets beat, say he gets comfortably beat here as well, handicapper could easily go, well, I'm going to drop you £3 for that. If he drops him £3, he'd be back off 137. The same mark as when winning the Silver Trophy at Cheltenham in April. Surely that's what they're doing, aren't they? They're getting him back down for that race. So yeah, he's the one I'm very interested in. They might also look at the Quarry handicap chase at Ayr, albeit he won that off 127. But I just feel that the Silver Trophy might be the long-term target with him. So yeah, Risk in the Ground, I'm just watching to see him hopefully get comfortably beaten, and it'll be interesting to see what the handicapper does on Tuesday with him. 225 at Warwick. This time we do like a horse to try and win. So we've just mentioned Mirabad, we don't think he'll be trying to win for Dan Skelton. Risk in the Ground, we don't think he'll be trying for Dan Skelton. This one we do. That is Lemilos. Ran a great race last time out, went second to Nocte Villatis. Just got beat by an in-form Tom Lacey horse, didn't he? In the Stayers final. The Veterans final, sorry. That was off a mark of 140. He stays off 140, but Harry Atkins this time takes 7 off. And he won this race last year. Under Harry Skelton off 139, he went off the 5-4 favourite that day and won comfortably. He won by 6 lengths. So he won off 139. Effectively, he's running off 133. He comes into the race in good form off the back of a second, when I think they were trying to get him just dropped in a handicap down to a mark that they could win off. They thought they had. Didn't quite come off. So they're going back for another race that they can win before then potentially looking at something else down the line. You know, trying to plot a return for the Veterans final again next year as a 12-year-old would be very, very extravagant or risky, because he's going to be 12. So I feel like they're coming here and they're going to go, let's try and win that race. At Warwick again. What price is he? Yes, he's the favourite, I think. He is indeed. He's the 5-2 favourite. I think he will take all of the beating. Moving on, 3:20 at Newbury, the big race of the day. The William Hill Hurdle, and you know who we like here. Let It Rain. We've sent a couple of emails about this horse way before she was even entered in the William Hill Hurdle. I still think she's going to take all of the beating. There's plenty of positives about her. She's nicely handicapped. Her run behind French Ship, for example, at Chepstow has worked out very well. The winner that day, French Ship, is now rated 146. French Ship only beat Let It Rain by 2¼ lengths, and Let It Rain is now £22 lower rated. You know, that would instantly give Let It Rain a good chance. Won a bumper at Ascot, beating Brecon Castle and Celtic Dino. Celtic Dino's obviously done pretty well since then. And on her return, after a long time off the track, she finished third when travelling like the winner at Ascot. Did they want to win that race worth £8,000? Probably not in hindsight. That's worth £8,000. This is worth 87. She's going to be very quietly ridden under Harry Skelton and hopefully come through and show that she's very, very well handicapped. I think that's the difference here. There's quite a few here that are well handicapped. Definitely well handicapped. The likes of Un Sans à la Vie. I think All In You is still well handicapped. Lanesborough. Hot Fuss could be. Dance and Glance. Reckless Eric. There's plenty here that are well handicapped. But I think Let It Rain might be very well handicapped. With that race in mind, the Let It Rain run at Ascot, if we went literally on the new handicap marks, Let It Rain was rated 120. She's now rated 124, so she's up £4. All In You was rated 118. He's now rated 127, up £9. And the winner, Dance and Glance, was rated 116, now rated 121, so up 5. So it's +5, +9, +4 for the front three. Just behind them in fourth was the hardest geezer, and he's only up 1. That could be enough to really get him not even much closer. He doesn't need to finish much closer. If he runs to the same level, so to speak, he's going to be really, really close to winning this. If we think Let It Rain could go and win this, or if you think All In You could win it, or you think Dance and Glance can win it, you have to think the hardest geezer could win it. His effort at Windsor was pretty good as well, beaten by Hot Fuss, who we'd previously said was well handicapped when we backed that horse at Sandown. We'd already backed Willful to win at Ascot, which he did. And Live Conti, everybody knew that was well handicapped. It was just what kind of ride was it going to get from Harry Skelton, and it got a ride that they weren't looking for that day. So the hardest geezer just bumped into horses that day. I think the hardest geezer can certainly go very, very close here, and is probably the value in the race in terms of if those at the head of the market do disappoint or it doesn't quite come off, the hardest geezer is overpriced. When we're looking at these three here, All In You, Let It Rain, and Dance and Glance. I suppose Dance and Glance is probably a bit big now, but the hardest geezer in comparison with All In You and Let It Rain is too big a price. You can get 16s, and I think that's a fair price. As if Let It Rain does bounce or the ground doesn't quite work for her, I would like to be on the hardest geezer at a 16s. There's one other horse that I'm interested in this race, and that is Favois, but not for today. Not for this race at all. Favois is currently rated 132. Incredibly, that's actually £4 lower than when finishing a nose second in an Imperial Cup in 2024. That's where this horse is being targeted at. This horse is going to go back for that race. In terms of, they've also got, you could say Favois is well handicapped for this race, the Betfair Hurdle, running off a £5 lower mark than when finishing 5th, beaten by Alberica Lord. I agree, but I think the Skeltons are doing two things here. They're trying to win it with Let It Rain, and they're trying to get Favois well beat with the Imperial Cup in mind. They don't want Let It Rain in the Imperial Cup. The Imperial Cup is not the race for Let It Rain. They think she's better than that. They'll probably be looking at the county hurdle with her. Favour is not going to win a county hurdle, in my opinion, aged 11. But he could certainly win an Imperial Cup aged 11. And yeah, on his handicap mark, he is nicely handicapped. He's a former county hurdle winner himself off 134. But if you got him beat and dropped a couple of pound here, say this horse, got beat and went down to 130, which is actually what I think the horse is currently rated. He is rated 130. Doesn't even need to drop in the weights, but if they did again and they went down another couple, went down to 128, say he was 128 and he turned up at Sandown for the Imperial Cup, £8 lower mark than when finishing a nose second to Godante, who went and won it the following year as well. Favour would look incredibly well handicapped. I hope that's the plan. I hope Favour gets comfortably beaten here, drops a few pounds, goes to the Imperial Cup, and we can still get this sort of price in the Imperial Cup, 33s and 40s. Is he out of form? Not really. He finished third in the county in the Greatwood Hurdle earlier this season. He's still running plenty good enough. I feel like they might just be planning a big race with this horse and getting him dropped to a mark that they can go, we are confident of going very, very close, rather than we hope he'll run well. So yeah, that's my selection for... my selections for the William Hill Hurdle are Let It Rain and the Hardest Geezer, and I'll be watching Favour with the Imperial Cup in mind. Couple more. Next one is the 355 at Newbury, which is a 2-mile-7 handicap chase. It's a novice handicap chase, and I feel like there's a horse in here that is just better than these. If we move to the odds, let's have a look at the current odds. It is the favourite, Jig's Forge. Jig's Forge actually reminds me a little bit of Jax Jr. Probably running in a handicap when would be good enough to run in the graded races. In actual fact, did run in graded races last year. Finished 6th in the Albert Bartlett. Then finished 7th in a good listed race at Perth. Came out this season, finished 3rd in a very nice novice handicap chase. Kim Rock was 2nd. Queensbury Boy was 5th. Jordan's Cross fell when probably going to win. That was a good novice handicap chase, and a better novice handicap chase, in my opinion, than what he's running in here. A reproduction of that run sees Jig Forge win here. Similarly, a reproduction of his last time out effort when beating Lucky Place. Lucky Place was significantly higher rated 152 compared to Jig's Forge 133. But I don't actually think Lucky Place massively underperformed, personally. I don't think the horse did. You could argue, you could say, well, he got comfortably beaten at Ascot. He did get comfortably beaten at Ascot. But the winner that day, Thomas Moore, to be fair to him, did go and finish 2nd next time up in the Cowtoe Stars at Kempton. Maybe it wasn't that bad a run from Lucky Place. And I feel last time he just got beat by a better horse in Jig's Forge, or a slightly more progressive. Lucky Place did drop back down to hurdles and ran well, finishing 3rd in the Railkill Hurdle. Nothing really wrong with that bit of form. And Jig's Forge doesn't have a 152 horse to beat here. The highest rated horse in against him is 134. That's Pour La Fille, and I don't think Pour La Fille is anywhere near good enough. And all the others, yes, it's a handicap, so they're running off their effective marks, but I just feel like they're running off their marks because that's how good they are, whereas Jig's Forge is probably better than his handicap mark of 137. I think he's a mid-140s horse, and I'm hoping he can show that here by winning quite nicely at Newbury. And finally, the last race I want to talk about is the 410. This isn't a betting race for me. This is does Ollie Murphy know what he's doing? That's the big question here. Let's see if they've got any odds for this race yet. We do. Do you know what? They've got the right favourite in Fingalbridge. If he's trying. If he's trying, he wins this comfortably. He's not a 139 horse and he's much better than his rivals. But why would you want to win this race? Why would you want to win an £8,000 race, handicap hurdle, off 139 and go up in the handicap when some of your form last season over hurdles was very, very good. You beat Wellington Arch at Market Raisin, a subsequent Aintree winner. You beat Regent Stroll at Exeter. That horse is really fancied for the Jack Richards Novice Handicap Chase this year. You beat Julius de Pictons that day. Obviously went on to win an Aintree Grade 1. You beat Alexei, went on to win the Greatwood Hurdle. Why would you want to go and win off the back of that, off a mark of 139? If we actually look at those three horses in behind, Regent Stroll is now rated 145 or 143 over hurdles. Julius de Picton is rated 138 over hurdles. And Alexei is rated 148 over hurdles. So he beat two horses in their 140s, one horse rated 138, and he's running off 139. He beat them. And he beat them quite nicely, to be honest. Off level weights in a novice hurdle. Why would you want to go and win this silly handicap for £8,000? Does not make any sense to me whatsoever. The only angle you could have is you go and win this and then go back over fences with the confidence restored. But even then, I think if he wins this, the handicapper go, yeah, we are wrong about his handicap mark over fences. We're going to push him up over fences as well. I just don't want him to win, because I feel like there's a big handicap in him, but it makes things tougher if he does go and win this. So I'm watching that race, and arguably hoping he gets beat, to be honest. But I don't know who would win it if he does get beat, and I don't want to back against him. So they are my thoughts for Saturday. Let's just run through them again. Let's have a look to see who I like. A Nom is definitely going to be in my naps. Let's have a look. We are going to go all out. We're going to go all out Dan Skelton. I think that's what we're going to do. Oh. We are going to go Let It Rain as my nap. We are going to go Lamilos as my third best. And we are going to go for a Nom as my next best. Jigs Forge nearly made it, but I'm going for the Dan Skelton treble for my naps. Best of luck. Hope you have a great weekend and can find lots of winners. And as I said, this goes out to Premium and Pro members today, Friday, and it will be available for free members on Saturday.